Oi, eu sou a Imara Lima, eu estou aqui para apresentar para vocês mais um episódio de Cine Art Variety, o seu programa semanal de variedades e entretenimento. Eu tenho a honra de apresentar para vocês um grande mestre budista, Drupon Rinpoche. Ele é um mestre responsável pelo Tango Sekar, um importante centro de retiros budistas localizado no alto das colinas do Vale de Katmandu, no Nepal. Logo abaixo de uma caverna onde praticava o reverenciado yogi tibetano Milarepa. Mas Rinpoche começou a treinar aos 7 anos de idade no monastério de Sabtsa, aprendendo os rituais e procedimentos de muitas das práticas Vajrayana. Ele recebeu ensinamentos preciosos de grandes mestres como Lama Senj, Drupon Rinpoche Karma Shirab, Khenpo Jimi Putsok Rinpoche e Khenchen Tango Rinpoche. Drupon atualmente ensina e supervisiona o Centro de Retiros em Tango Sekar, estabelecido em 2004 pelo senhor do refúgio Khenchen Tango Rinpoche, para servir como retiro principal para os lamas do monastério de Tango, selecionados para praticar o retiro tradicional dos 3 anos. Tango Rinpoche batizou o retiro de Sekar, em homenagem à famosa torre construída pelo Milarepa durante o seu árduo treinamento com Marpa Losawa. Os retiros de Tango Sekar são reconhecidos pela sua excelência. São mais de 220 pessoas que praticam o Dharma, os ensinamentos do Dharma, sejam em retiros de 21 anos, 6 anos, 3 anos ou até mesmo de semanas. Sekar é uma referência. Mas agora, com vocês, eu tenho a honra de apresentar para vocês o grande mestre Drupon Rinpoche. Vamos lá? It's such an honor to be able to talk to you. I would like to start if you could give a definition of Sanghi.
The definition of a Buddha, as given in the scriptures, is not at all easy to understand. It is vast and profound. And so like a very learned scientist trying to present their understanding of science would be very difficult if the audience is not very knowledgeable about science. But if another learned scientist was to hear them present their understanding of science, then they would be able to understand quite a lot. And so it's similar when it comes to understanding the definition of Buddha. It's not easy. But to give a simple definition, then a Buddha is that which is endowed with knowledge, love and ability. The knowledge that knows the actual reality and manifestation of phenomena. A love that is impartial and extends to all living beings. And an ability that indirectly and directly establishes sentient beings in a state of well-being and happiness. if we think of the Buddha like that, then that's easier to understand. If we could get more technical, we could talk about then the twofold forms of knowledge that a Buddha has, the two attainments. We could talk of a Buddha's qualities of discardment and realization, but as I said, that becomes rather complicated and difficult to understand.
How can Buddhism benefit all beings?
The way that Buddhism benefits beings is through its fundamental principles of being of no harm, not harming others, often translated as non-violence. And so the Buddha taught the methods by which we can avoid harming others and can be of benefit to them. And so a practitioner or a student of Buddhism then learns the methods of how they can avoid harming others.
What are the most important vows that a Buddhist has to follow?
And so the main vows that a Buddhist keeps relates back to your previous question about how Buddhism benefits others. And so there are three main vows for a Buddhist to keep. The first is to commit to not harming others, and then striving to keep that commitment, keep that promise. The second is to commit to being of benefit to others, and then striving to fulfill that commitment. And the third is committing to have a positive view of others, to see the good in others, and to avoid thinking negatively of them.
How would you say that we could build back our courage after we've been hurt or blocked?
When we are harmed by another, then one of the best things that we can do is to recognize the damage it does by retaliating, by returning harm for harm, understanding that by doing that we plant within ourselves, within our own mind stream, a habitual tendency for being of harm to others. And so we turn that around and we instead practice patience and forbearance, recognizing that by doing that we plant a positive tendency for being forbearing and patient with others. And this approach not only benefits ourselves, but benefits that other person and others in general.
Does birds have a special meaning on Buddhism?
We do see retold in the past lives, in the accounts of Buddha's past lives, that the Buddha was reborn as birds in certain lifetimes. But other than that, I don't think birds have any particular relevance or symbolic meaning in Buddhism.
Would you give us an advice for beginners and long-time Dharma practitioners?
I don't have any particular advice to give to older Buddhists and newer Buddhists separately, but some general advice would be to, with a vast view, broad intention, and with conviction and confidence, then to study the Dharma, to study to understand what the Dharma really is, what is reality. Because as long as we don't know that, any practice we do will not be authentic. We may feel like we are practicing, but we are in fact not. It won't be real practice as long as we haven't done studying, come to understand the Dharma first of all. And then once we have studied, then we can't leave it at mere study, like dry knowledge, but we have to practice. We have to implement what we have learned. So that would be my advice, to study and practice diligently.
Rinpoche, thank you so much. I would like to ask you, how would you like to close this interview?
To close, then, I would like to offer my thanks to you, the interviewer, and to everybody who has watched this video. Thank you. Tashi Dele.
E para encerrar esse episódio tão especial, gostaram? Nós também. Então vocês já sabem, próxima semana, Cine Arte Variety comigo, a Imara Lima, aqui no VRT Channel.